Welcome to Youth Are Yotzrim. Yotzrim is simply a Hebrew word which means creators. My name is Heather Kiros, and I'm the author of First Century Youth Ministry. And I believe that when it comes to their faith, youth and young adults are not just online consumers, but they're online
creators.
That's right. And I have with me today Connor Ambrosy. I had the privilege of getting to know Connor when I was a youth leader at Cornerstone Baptist Church in Iowa. Connor is a sophomore at Wartburg College. And today, Connor and I are going to be talking about an issue in the Christian world that's a big issue, and that is dating. And so the hope is that for those of you that are listening, whether you're a youth, a young adult, a youth worker, or a parent, that you'll be encouraged in your faith as we create content on the internet that draws and encourages its people to get to know Jesus. So Connor, today we're going to be talking about the hot topic of dating. So tell me, why is it important for you as a Christian young man to set boundaries in dating? And is living a pure life still even a possibility for a young man or a young woman in high school or in college?
I would say boundaries are important and can be set. And I believe for dating, it's something that you should set immediately when you start a relationship. And don't be afraid to, if it seems awkward, like especially sex or everything before and after that, it seems like something that would be awkward to talk to if you're with somebody, and especially if it hasn't been that long, but it's an important thing to talk about, mostly because when you're getting really close to someone and sex is kind of a spur of the moment thing, that when those feelings come on, it's really hard to say no if you haven't dedicated to that. So it's good to have both people to be on board with either saying yes or no. And when you have that, it's much easier just to stay with it. And I would say in that regard, it still is possible to have a pure relationship, but it takes extra work from both the male and female.
So what I heard you say, Connor, is that you need to determine what your boundaries are before you even get into a relationship. Is that right?
I would say get into a serious relationship. Like if you're just like seeing them every once in a while, no, but like when you're like starting to really hang out with them and it's getting more serious, that's when, I mean, at least after your first kiss with them. So, or maybe a little bit after that, but
Sure. So what's helped you kind of determine, okay, I'm a Christian young man who wants to live a pure life. Like, what's helped you determine what those boundaries are and essentially what your values are in living a life of purity?
I would say it comes to, from what I already previously said about sex, it's something that you should, as a Christian, you should avoid being, well, for me personally, it's hanging out with somebody if you're in like their room by themselves and it's a really late at night, it's when you're more, it's harder to keep that. So I would advise, just if you're going to spend time with your significant other and you value a pure relationship, I would either do it in like hang out with them in like a common area or just with their roommates are there.
Yeah.
So, or during the day.
Sure. And that's so true that when you get to college, you have more freedom. And so, when you're in high school, maybe mom and dad are kind of helping you set those boundaries. But as a young adult, you really have to determine what you're going to value when it comes into a relationship. So you talked earlier about how, you have to be on the same page as you and your significant other. So what would you do if you maybe met a girl, she's super cute, but she doesn't have the same values as you do when it comes to setting boundaries? when it comes to the physical boundaries in your relationship?
It's actually kind of interesting because that was a previous relationship that I had.
Okay.
And I guess I did not do what I should have now, and it ended very poorly because of that. But from what I've learned, I would, if I could go back, I would most likely either have a conversation about her about why I value what I value, and if it's still she still has the same belief, I would move on and have a different relationship, and just but make sure it's a peaceful resolution and you're not just
Yeah,
dumping her and moving on.
for
So
sure. So essentially what you're saying is, hey, these are my boundaries. If that person is not in line with those boundaries, I'm not going to do the dumb thing and just try to date them where eventually it kind of has to end in this messy way.
yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, okay, let's talk about this. And this will kind of be our last thing as we kind of wrap up our discussion today. So, I'm a teenager and I'm thinking to myself, man, everybody is having sex, everybody is losing their virginity. I'm the only one. And I feel like a total loser. What would you say to that individual who feels really alone in that struggle?
That's a very good question. I've been that teenager for a long time.
Mhm.
And I would say one of the things is just hold to your faith and remember that it's somehow personal sex is, and it's something that you should be able to wait for the right person. And if you're having it with someone who you don't plan on having a future with, it really degrades the value of it. And also, you gain a very personal connection with that person. That is, if you decide to split ways, makes breaking up and getting over them very, very difficult.
Yeah. Yeah. So then one last question is, I feel like at least for the guys, I don't feel like it's so much for the girls, but there's a lot of pressure that there's this idea that if I am a virgin as a guy, then I'm somehow not a man, or that I somehow haven't reached a level of manhood that I should have by now.
Hmm.
So what would you say to those, or how have you dealt with that maybe as a young man, who is living to have a pure life?
Um, I would say that it's doesn't really have anything to do with being a man,
Yeah.
and it's you can be a man and not have it, and it's just kind of a personal choice thing for people.
Mhm.
And most of the people I think who pressure other people into having it are really insecure themselves about a relationship or wanting to prove themselves to other people.
Yeah.
So I would say it's the opposite is true, that
Mhm.
if you're able to and you stand up for willing to wait, you prove yourself to be a stronger man than any of them. So
That's a great point. That's a great point. So Connor, thank you so much for the conversation today. I just want to repeat back to our listeners, just the wisdom that you shared. Again, we're creating content from youth and young adults that would encourage others in their faith and would engage the social media world in a way that brings light and hope to the person of Jesus. So Connor, thanks for sharing with us that if you're in a dating relationship, make sure to set those boundaries. That make sure as well to find a person who shares similar values as you do when it comes to your boundaries. And guys, understand that having sex doesn't make you a man. That actually waiting shows a greater strength of manhood than does giving into it. So,
hmm.
anything else you would want to add, Connor?
Yes, I have a Bible verse I'd like to share that
Yeah.
really helped me for dating.
Okay, great.
Okay, here we go. Um, One of the verses that's really helped me in dating and finding someone who's interesting to me is Proverbs 11:22. Like a gold ring in a pig's snout is a beautiful woman without discretion. When you first read that, it sounds very crude. It's almost
Sure.
like it's saying women are like pigs. But when you actually get into what it's saying, it's a lesson from both men and women. As for men, it's saying that it's it's important to look at more it's more important to look at what a girl is on the inside
Mhm.
and her values and her personality
Yeah.
rather than just how beautiful she looks,
Mhm.
because that's something that wears off over time. And just like a in the analogy here, a gold ring and a pig's snout, the gold ring is very beautiful, but it's a pig, so it's not really a good thing you want to hang out with. And it's the
Sure.
same thing with a if you have someone that you think is just beautiful and very hot, if you can't stand being around them, you're not going to be happy. So,
Right.
and I'd say it's the same thing for a similar lesson for girls is that don't spend all that much time worrying about how you look and how people think you look.
Mhm.
More spend more time
Yeah.
developing yourself as a person and your personal values, because
Yes.
that's something that is more attractive to the guys you want to attract.
Yes.
So,
Ladies, there are guys out there like Connor who do actually look for a beautiful woman on the inside. So wait for that man. He's out there. So, Connor, thanks again. Anything else you'd like to add before we wrap up today?
no, I'm
Okay.
good. Thanks for having me.
All right. Well, thanks for joining us on Youth or Yotzrim. We pray that you were encouraged, and go ahead and share this video with your friends to get them getting to know Jesus. Hey, we'll see you later.
See ya.